A former Utah Supreme Court justice recently wrote a letter to another former Utah Supreme Court justice.
One of them is asking the other to defend the courts.
The other one just used every chapel in the U.S. to talk about the Constitution.
This is that story.
Hello, Eternal Family. Welcome to Postmortem's Mormon Monday, where we talk about something of recent interest in Mormondom. I'm Hannah.
And I'm Jess. A letter ran in the Salt Lake Tribune on May 14th. The letter writer is David Bennett. He's a former Utah Supreme Court justice. He's writing to Dallin H, current president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, also a former Utah Supreme Court justice. So two men who held the same seat on the same court. Bennett's ask is simple. Speak out.
Here's the situation Bennett is describing. In 2018, Utah voters passed Proposition 4. It was an anti-gerrymandering law. It created an independent redistricting commission and banned partisan map drawing. The legislature repealed it in 2020 and drew its own map anyway.
Court spent the next 5 years unwinding that. In August 2025, a district judge ruled the legislature had unconstitutionally repealed Prop 4. In November 2025, she threw out their replacement map too, called it an extreme partisan outlier, and put in place a map drawn by plaintiffs, including the League of Women Voters and Mormon Women for Ethical Government. The Utah Supreme Court, composed entirely of Republican-appointed justices, upheld her rulings.
And then, according to Bennett, a faction of elected and appointed officials began campaigning to remove two of those justices for doing their jobs.
So Bennett's argument is that Oaks, who spent his legal career on the Utah Supreme Court before becoming an apostle, who has built his entire public identity around the rule of law and constitutional order, is exactly the person who should be saying something right now, that the guardrails of democracy are not a partisan issue, that judges doing their jobs shouldn't cost them their seats.
That's a reasonable argument. It's also a little bit funny.
Just a little.
Because 4 weeks ago, the church directed every ward in the United States to hold a coordinated fifth Sunday lesson on religious freedom and constitutional principles. Oaks produced the video. The First Presidency signed the letter. May 31st, every meeting house.
And it gets better. On July 5th, there's a worldwide fast for the rule of law, for religious liberty, and for the United States Constitution.
The same week, Bennett is in the Tribune asking Oaks to defend the actual courts in his actual home state from actual political retaliation for actually upholding the actual Constitution.
The church filed to repeal Prop 4. Oh, wait. Well, that's not accurate. Let me be precise. The repeal effort was led by the Utah Republican Party, Rob Axson, Mike Lee, Attorney General Derek Brown. The church didn't file, but the legislature that spent 5 years trying to override the courts is roughly 89% Latter-day Saint. That's not the church, but it's not nothing.
Bennett isn't asking Oaks to endorse a party. He's asking him to say that judges shouldn't be removed for ruling correctly. That's a thing Oaks could say. He has the standing, the title, the legal background, and, as of May 31st, the institutional machinery to get a message into every chapel in the United States simultaneously.
But he just used it to talk about the U.S. Constitution.
Loudly. Thank you for spending your time with us today. If this episode landed for you, or even if it didn't, tell us about it in the comments.
The easiest way to help other people find us is to leave us a rating and a review wherever you're listening. Even a quick 5-star rating is super easy, and it helps more than you think.
You can also find us on Instagram and TikTok at postmortemandpostmortem, online at postmortemandpostmortem.com, wherever you listen to podcasts, and on Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee. The links are in the show notes. And if you know someone who's always interested in what is going on in the world of Mormondom, send them our way. Word of mouth is how we grow this little corner of the internet.
We'll link Bennett's letter to the editor in the show notes, as well as other sources that we pulled on.
And we'll be back next week with another Mormon Monday. Until then, Jess, I am sorry for what I said when I was Mormon.
I'm sorry for what I said when I was Mormon too.